Do you ever feel like you're playing the game of life and it's just not happening the way you know it could? Does it feel like everyone's playing with the wrong set of rules? Rules they don't even need? Aren't games supposed to be fun and maybe even rule less? When did we get so busy? Why do we seem so driven to do things that are so far outside our true desires? What kind of game have we created? And how do we change it so it can be fun again? Get ready to listen, share, and experience the fun that this game can be. Now, here's the host of the Work and a Life radio show, Carol Glover.
Welcome, everyone. Today is July 16th, and are you ready for anything? I have a very special guest with me. It's H Ballard, and we're going to have a conversation in resiliency. Michael is a resiliency expert, and he specializes in building resiliency by helping groups and people of all ages really learn how to deal with change and adversity in this fast-paced modern life. With its overwhelming situations, stresses, and all of that fun, not so fun stuff. Michael has delivered breakthrough sessions and solutions for over 207 organizations in North America and around the world. And he dedicates his life helping others prepare for, recover from life's challenges through actionable solutions that reflect the depth of his experience and practical yet science-based approach to instill a courageous point of view. Welcome, Michael.
Hello, how are you?
Fantastic. And just a reminder to listeners, you can definitely join in the call at 815-880-8255 or in Canada, 613-800-8736 through Skype at a2zen.fm, and you can definitely join in the chat room online at a2zen.fm and click on chat in the menu. So Michael, wow, where do we even start? Why don't you tell us a little bit about your experience and how resilience became so important to you?
Well, thank you. Well, it goes back a long point in my life. I was 6 years old and riding my bicycle, minding my own business, being 6. And somebody ran out in front of me, and I was quick thinking and managed to avoid them and not hit them. But it seems that I managed to find the only rock in the ditch with my head and suffered a concussion. So as I came back to consciousness, I was in the hospital, and a young man in the room, also having had a concussion, was reacting as completely different from me as possible. Not good or bad, right or wrong, just different. And I wanted the lights off, complete peace and quiet, and could I have some food because I'm really hungry, but they didn't want to feed me a lot because in case I threw up, and they didn't want me choking, and also they kept shining a light in my eye to make sure they weren't dilating, so I wasn't getting any real sleep for the first 36 hours, and screamed and shouted the whole time. So it wasn't that he was wrong. He reacted with full-out blown energy, which as an adult I found out that concussions can sometimes agitate you a lot. And I went the other way. I just wanted everything to go away. And I'd asked as a 6-year-old, can I have some aspirins? Because that's what I heard adults said when they had a headache. And I was just a little annoyed that they said no. But now as an adult, I learned that would mask symptoms potentially. Right. So I had the first world-class headache of my life. I wouldn't wish it on anybody, but it drove home the point that two people having a similar experience could react exponentially different. I was in awe that, well, I had a headache and wanted peace and quiet. He had a headache and he screamed and shouted, which I just couldn't understand. Who makes a loud noise when you have a headache? But live and learn, and that set me up to be really fascinated by how people behaved. And fast forward, an expert with good intentions upon diagnosing a chronic illness for me when I was 17 said, but there's nothing you can do about it, Michael. And that was my first bittersweet taste of helpless and hopeless, which led me back to the young gentleman reacting and behaving totally different than me. And so went home and had a talk with my parents off and on over a few days, because in my family There's no such thing as nothing you can do. And so you can talk to your friends and family about people that have had similar situations and what did they do to cope mentally. Maybe physically there was nothing I could do back then for my body with chronic illness, but there was all sorts of things intellectually and emotionally and spiritually that I might be able to do. So that was my big kickoff into the adult world. At 17, I didn't really want to be all grown up. I just wanted a pill to make it go away. Well, it wasn't going to happen. So it got me all started, Carol. That was my two big grounding moments where it was like the concussion where, wow, two people, similar issue, and just couldn't react differently. And then the chronic illness where the expert with good intention said there was nothing I could do. And nowadays I would tell you that he was well-intentioned but nothing but a plumber. Because we know with the mind-body sciences that we can all do something for our quality of life when illness strikes.
Right. See, it's funny that I'm even having this conversation because I've never had to really be, or at least not consciously, I haven't had to be resilient. I've had a really smooth, pretty easy life.
Only envious.
But I obviously see that there are a lot of people who can use skills and demonstrate these skills, and I'm fascinated actually by it because I just thought that we just get through stuff.
Right.
The body. So what's the difference between the body just getting through stuff and actually being resilient?
Well, when an illness strikes or a financial problem strikes or a relationship issue strikes, one of all of them, one or more at a time, being resilient is about making choices. Versus if it's just a health issue, I shouldn't say just, but when it's a health issue, being resilient can help you manage your pain. The research would say it can shorten your pain, lessen the intensity of the pain. It's not a cure. Resiliency is not a cure for health issues, but it can really help you manage the quality of the experience and, on occasion, increase the quality of the end of the experience. So I have found it very handy for your listeners. Eventually, I went on to have cancer, unfortunately, twice over 7 years, as well as a failed medical procedure, so I had to go and be rushed to OR at 11:37, I believe it was, 23 minutes to midnight, but it was still my birthday. So being resilient, I looked around the OR theater at 23 minutes to midnight, and I realized that some of the medical team were crying because I'd been in the hospital often enough that I joked that, there's frequent flyer points and frequent loyalty points. Could you offer a card to have frequent Stitcher points for those of us that are on the table too often?
Oh, dear.
I got them to laugh because I was scared I might be dying on that table in the next hour or three. So if I'm going to go, I was going to go on my terms. So I got them to sing me happy birthday. I cracked a couple of smart aleck jokes. They said, Michael, we got to get operating. I said, I know, but I'm going to go in on my terms. In 30 seconds, it's going to make a big difference? No. Here we go. So I told a bad joke about the frequent Stitchers, had them sing me happy birthday. They put the mask on for me to breathe in the anesthetic to put me out for the count. And I didn't remember 98 because I sucked in on 100, went to 99, and I was gone. But I went unconscious on my terms. And I left them with the thought that while you're in there looking around, fixing what needs to be tuned up, because I never said I was broken. I said I'm here because I'm here for warranty work. So part of being resilient is how do you frame things? How do you position things for the best possible journey and outcome? Still realizing that there's big stuff you have to accept, whether you created it or somebody else or circumstances created it, but frame it for the best possible quality of experience and the best possible quality of outcome. And so I framed it that way, and I woke up about 18 hours later being told that, yep, your bowel was about ready to burst. That's why it looked like you had a fist coming out of your abdomen. So I was found out my belly's pretty stretchy, and it was fascinating. So to go back to your question about the difference between just going through it and being resilient, for me it was about creating more laughter and joy. It was about helping my family cope when I could. It wasn't about owning it all. for them. They have to do it their way. It was about me owning it for me.
Mm.
And also, the doctors told me it made me easier to treat because I was a willing patient. I didn't like being sick, don't get me wrong, but when you can laugh about it, so I now tease, because I have a 14-inch incision that they've been into 5 times, that they should have put a zip in, and the odd person goes, Michael, we go to the beach for summer vacation, and people go, after you get to know them after a while, they might say, what's with the scar? I said, oh, me and Zorro had a bit of an issue, and we almost lost it. So, I was never going to be a gentleman quarterly bathing suit model, and at some point you have to look in the mirror and go, you know what? Those scars represent a lot of pain and a lot of wisdom gained and acquired through the tenacity and the perseverance. So I like to think it's wisdom and tenacity and perseverance that they show. So I sort of wear them as a badge. And I got a few small ones too. The one I'm most proud of is the little tiny one that you'd have to look hard to see, and that's where the chemotherapy went. And that one was the one where it's like, it's another one. So you could see it as a beauty mark, as a dimple, as just a spot. And so I choose to see it as a spot.
Right.
That's where the good stuff went. I used to tease the doctor, could we spell off and just have a little rum direct to the site on occasion? He said, as much as that might be fun for you, it's not the same. I said, well, we could get the extra strength spicy. And he told me no. So I took his word for it.
Bummer.
Yeah, I know. But again, it was about taking what I'm going through seriously and taking myself lightly at the same time.
Yeah. So it sounds as if you're kind of making the choice between just getting through something and actually being in it and experiencing it and, taking it for whatever it can be for you.
Yeah, being in the moment, accepting it for what it is, fighting and pushing back, and practicing the art of framing and reframing. It was scary. I could have died on the table when I had my emergency surgery in the OR room. And I accepted that, but I said, how do I want to be remembered? It's okay to whimper and whine if that's where you're at. There's no disgrace in it. It really hurt a lot. On the other hand, it was like that old saying, do you have the problem? Do you own the problem, or does the problem own you? And I thought, I'll be darned if this problem's going to own me. It can seriously impede my physical being. It might even end my physical life. But I'm a believer that I'm a spiritual being having a physical life. So I am going to own the problem, and I'm going to stick my tongue out at it and make a raspberry. I'm going to be in charge of this situation. So a lot of, I would never want it again, but I wouldn't trade it again either.
Right.
Because it was so mind-altering and so spiritually altering that it just was. So it gave me the gift of patience in ways that I never would have believed that I could be patient. Overall, it's been quite a journey, as you can imagine.
Yeah, it definitely sounds that way. So did you have those dark feeling sorry for yourself, kind of, what am I doing here kind of days through it?
I had my moments, and I think it's important to acknowledge them. And as someone that was very wise said, make friends with those feelings. So after I got used to feeling overwhelmed, as you can imagine, the first few days were pretty scary.
Yeah.
I used to go to the nurse's station and say, listen, couldn't sleep at night. I wonder why. Nothing like being anxious that you might die in 6 weeks. And say, listen, it's 6 in the morning or 5 in the morning. I'm not allowed to have a shower. I understand why the surgery's got to heal. But I'm going to go to the men's shower room and have a good cry. I'm perfectly safe. I'm not going to do anything foolish, but I'm going to gnash and wail. And I would go in there and sit against the floor on the wall, sit against the wall on the floor, and just have a good cry and let it all out.
Wow.
Maybe I hadn't done my best at 26, 27. Maybe I should have married that wonderful woman a year earlier, or maybe I should have gone to university instead of college. And the little voice after a couple of minutes to a couple of 20-minute sessions would go, enough. You let it out. It's good to acknowledge, but we're starting to repeat ourselves here. You've got to get on with your day and get on with your life. So, time to get out, get reflective, do some prayers, some meditative walking, some self-hypnosis, some music therapy, and get on with your day and reach out. And one of the things that I was gifted with through my parents was making connections. So I had started a prayer group as soon as I got the diagnosis, within 24 hours. And I had also phoned, being the extrovert that I am, because I get a lot of energy from others and learn from others, is I'd phoned 190 people. Should have seen a long distance bill the next month. Whoa.
Yeah.
And I just said to them, I got this big thing. I don't need money, but I'd love prayers, and I'd like a note, and I'd send something positive my way. 1 sentence, 10 sentences. Tell me what's going on in your life. Anything silly from we're serious that you bought a new pair of shoes that pinch your toes, to your grandchild just got through kindergarten, or your oldest just graduated from university. Just tell me something positive in your life. Don't worry about me. Just say a prayer, send me a note. And it was amazing. I got 200 and some odd notes and cards in the first couple of weeks, and 400 and some odd by the end of it all. And the nursing staff and the social worker and the psychiatrist was like, should we know you? Who are you? You're getting all these notes, and you've shared some. They're so inspiring. I said, well, I'm scared out of my wits. I have what I'm told is the best medical team on the East Coast in Halifax, and the doctor and surgical team had gone to Europe to study advanced surgery for my particular type of cancer. So I knew I had some first-class medical team. But I said spiritually, emotionally, and physically, I'm still scared out of my wits, so I've asked for support. And I said it's come pouring in.
That's amazing, because I think one of the things that a lot of people get so caught up in is, I have to do this myself. But one of the first things that you did was actually reach out and say, hey, listen, I need a little shot.
Yep,
right?
And so I didn't want anybody to feel obligated to spend hours. I wanted 3 minutes of your time every couple of weeks. And, of course, this was the 80s, so I wanted a note in the mail. Nowadays, email makes it easier. But back then, it was still snail mail, faxes, telegrams, courier packages were just getting started. And so snail mail served me very well. And complete strangers, through mutual friends and family, wrote me notes and letters. And one of my favorites, from a man now deceased, he wrote me a 3-page letter, handwritten, about how his parents had both had the same cancer as me in the same location and had gone on to live an extra 10 to 20 years. And given that they were in their 70s when they were diagnosed, I feel comfortable, Michael, in saying that given your great attitude and a great medical team, you have a good chance to make it to 80 as well. So buck up, buckle down, and go for it. And
wow.
I get all emotional thinking that he took the time to handwrite a 3-page, single-space letter. To this day, Mel is on my list of people I love. I'd never met him. I knew his son. I did work with his son. His son was a first-class guy. His son sent me notes, but Dad buckled down and wrote me that 3-page letter. And years later, I got invited to his retirement party, and I tried not to hug him too hard. Because that was serious love. Oh, my gosh. I read
amazing.
that letter I don't know how many times. He didn't promise a cure, just that given your attitude and your great medical team, I think you got a chance to make it to at least 80. And so I've made it another 25 plus. So, yeah, he was pretty close in his diagnosis and prognosis. So being resilient really, to me, is in part about the quality of the experience. And in part about the outcomes. In everyday life, it can definitely change outcomes. Grades at school, graduation rates, quality of neighborhood, workplace environment, getting along with ourselves, accepting ourselves, building our confidence. These are all places where resiliency can play a big piece.
For sure.
Life and death issues, it can really change the quality of the experience. And for those of us who have had chronic illness, not just acute illness, because, you know, who doesn't want to have every experience in life? Not. It can really bamboozle your medical people. Because to go back to my chronic illness diagnosis as a teenager, unbeknownst to my medical team, after they told me there was nothing I could do, I had been taking Shaolin Kung Fu, which is based on the Buddhist monks' teachings. And so I learned a lot of breathing skills. And they called it other things. Some experts would call it meditative walking. my work with kids and adults, we just call it belly breathing. It's real simple that way. It's hard to forget. You got to breathe with your belly.
Yeah.
And a lot of my illness issues disappeared for 3 years.
Wow.
You bamboozled the experts under the microscope at a cellular level. You've really got an issue here, Michael.
Yeah.
I do.
I'm really sorry. I want to keep going, but we have to take a break. We'll be right back.
Each business is its own entity, separate from the person who created it, having its own energy and influences. What if you could use healing energy to clear blocks and fill voids that hold you in confusion and stagnation? Well, you can, and the results can be profound. Would you be interested in gaining insights as to what's really happening with your business and shift it into greater possibilities? Is it time for you to explore the unique energy of your business and create your future from a place of confidence, flow, and possibility with Carol? Find out more at www.workandalife.com.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
Being visible, being social, being heard. What desires are you ready to create? Would you like to take the next step to creating a potent presence on the web? Would it create more possibilities and expansion in your life? BeingVisible.ca offers website, social media, radio show creation, and more. Creating with consciousness, bringing the energy of you to your audience. Are you ready to connect with your audience clearly, regularly, and with ease? Christine MacGyver and Carol Glover work with individuals and organizations to create a powerful presence on the web. Personal attention and one-on-one training creates the ease with expanding you. Are you ready? Connect today at beingvisible.ca. This is Work and a Life with Carol Glover. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 1-815-880-8255. That's 815-880-TALK. Or in Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to carol@workandalife.com. Now back to the program.
Welcome back. I have the amazing Michael Ballard with me, talking about resiliency.
Yes.
Now, I know that what you do, you work with all age groups as well as individuals and corporations.
Right.
How is it different, the conversation that you have about resiliency, how is it different between an individual and a corporation?
Well, actually, it depends on the size of the organization to a point. And for an individual, it can be very personal, and there's a lot of sharing, and that makes it easy to move forward. With a large organization, sometimes based on trust issues, not necessarily with me as the new guy at the front of the room. I find that pretty easy to build trust with an individual or a team. But if there's 2,000 people in the organization, there's mistrust that if I share with Ballard why I'm not so resilient, that guy in that other department I used to work with who's a bit of an idiot, not my words, but sometimes people share personally, that he'll take advantage of that. So what we do is we do it in small groups, and sometimes we break off into coaching sessions for real sharing about why people are stuck. So we can talk big picture, intermediate, and some teams, and we talk team, and then we have to break off for individual sessions if there's something big that people want to share.
So how would an organization even know that they need to have these discussions?
Good question. Corporately, I've been hired when staff turnover rates start to go up, when productivity levels are going down. I've been hired to work with sales teams as the marketplace changes and people see that their sales teams are spending more hours to get less revenue. And so it's being resilient is about working smart and then hard. And so we help them figure out a new sales process or redeveloping the one they're currently using so it's more effective use of time, because everybody feels a time crunch these days in North America at the very least, if not around the world. So being resilient by department can be a little different. Research and development, it might be different than it would be for sales. I work with a technical firm that was in precious metals for special applications in different industries. And the research and development people were all excited about their new year and their new equipment and their new software and all the analysis they could do. And the sales team were just exhausted because some of the new internet technologies and ways of doing things was costing them sales because their competitors were using technology for selling far superior to their own company. Their own company put their money into technology for delivery of service and quality of work. Their competitors put it into sell.
Oh.
So, yeah, so, you know, if you and I invest $100,000 into our small business, you in selling and me in product development, I might have a better product, but if you're outselling me 3-1 and suddenly you're outselling me 4-1, I might not be around.
Yeah.
to enjoy the, you know, my customers might go with you because you're a better sales team, more sophisticated. My
Right.
product might be better, but if I'm not getting the word out, so it's just about helping companies get an outside point of view and seeing how they've allowed themselves to be defined by themselves and the marketplace. And
wow.
sometimes they don't get that. I worked with a large tech firm that had gotten rid of a complete level of leadership and management. Excuse me, and these were this was in a pretty sophisticated group. I mean, you know, the lowest salary in the group was $60,000 a year. This was 8-10 years ago. That's a lot of money.
Yeah.
But these people still needed human contact. So by getting rid of all the team leaders, sure, management saved themselves a whole lot of money, and that was 1 out of 12 people that was gone off the team, and they were supposed to be self-directed work teams. But if you have a problem, who do you talk to?
Right.
And if my team put in 70 to 90-hour work weeks for 6 weeks out of time crunch because there was a crisis for an international government in IT, well, suddenly when my team gets reallocated, how does the next team know that I just put in 70 to 90 hours? What do you mean you want to take week off because you just put in a lot of hours? But we need you on this team immediately.
Yeah.
They're having huge turnover issues. And I never said I was the brightest one in the bunch, but when you interview 40 people and get the same response from all of them, that they hate expletives, deletives, hate the new setup, because there was nobody there for the soft skill issues. As one guy said, so when your wife tells you after you've been away from home for 3 weeks out of country, and then away from home for 70 hours a week out of province, that after 6 to 7 weeks of that nonsense, who's going to be parenting the kids if I leave home? I need some 9 to 5 time. But with no manager, leader to talk to, I have to go through all this rigmarole up the food chain to tell them that, no, I don't care how much you're paying me. I need time to be a dad and be a spouse.
Yeah.
It seems simple, but that's a company with over 10,000 staff that made that mistake.
Yeah.
You know, they lost millions of dollars of talent. People had spent $30,000 to $150,000 training on their ways and their software and hardware, and they just walked out the door with some very powerful language being thrown over their shoulders.
Right. So like, it sounds to me like since you're able to walk into all these different sizes, shapes, and industries, there must be then, and with individuals too, there must be some core skills that you can share and they can translate to wherever it's required. Right?
Yes. I have a very basic model that I get people to look at and get them to understand that we all follow that.
Okay.
And if we don't follow it, there's consequences. So,
well, and one of the major consequences, I would imagine, would be, okay, you're going to be right back where you are today. How do you like that?
Yep. Or you're going to be losing money, you're going to be losing staff, you're going to be losing, or profits are going to drop or disappear.
Right.
And it's amazing in corporations how some people will defend. They'd rather think they're right than change.
Yeah.
And it just boggles my mind. I worked with a group of professionals in the public utility world, and the manager for this particular group, there was about 140 staff. He approached me in coordination with the union, which is not always usual, and it was based on some safety issues and morale. It seemed that out of the 140 people, there was 5 or 6 people who had banded together to try to get the manager and the union leader fired, because these 5 or 6 thought it was okay to have afternoon naps, drink on the job, make the job a playground.
Right.
And it was quite fascinating. So I worked with the 130 plus that I thought wanted to really be there in the job. And at the public utility, I have to tell you, they don't get paid average wages. Once again, these people were all paid anywhere from 2 to 20,000 above national averages for comparable work. So it wasn't like they were hard done by.
Right.
They all worked within 90 minutes of major centers. So it wasn't like they were geographically isolated and hard done by. They had, all the latest in telecommunications and TV and entertainment. They were all minutes away from towns and cities of 20 to 100,000 people. So they weren't, I just didn't understand this woe is me mindset.
Yeah.
And so we talked about thinking about bitter and better, and how bitter gets in the way, and how bitter erodes at our confidence, erodes at our health, and eventually gets in the way of the income. So over time, the union leader quit and went somewhere else at a pay drop, but was happy, last I heard, comparatively, because everybody on our new team wanted to be safe and earn a living, not hide.
Right.
And the manager managed to get the work completely broken up, and had the 5 dispersed to different areas. So they don't work with each other anymore. So they lost in the end. But that was really interesting, because that was my one and only time where a group were, just a small fragment of them were uncooperative. And it was quite amazing to see how angry they were and how they felt everybody was mean to them. These were all people over 35.
Yeah.
So I take them through a model about stretching or shrinking, and resiliency is about stretching into the issues, acknowledging the issues, and then breaking the issues down into what do we need to do to deal with these issues. Is this a self-responsibility issue? Is this a workplace issue? Is this bigger than me, or is this only me? Which issues do I need help on? Which issues do I need skill training on? And you can see I just go down an audit list.
Yeah, yeah.
And it's exciting to see how they change, most of them.
So are there points generally in these conversations where people get stuck or bogged down a little bit, like where it just becomes so different from what they were experiencing before that they don't know what to do with it?
Yes, and whether I'm dealing with chronically ill or salespeople or new entrepreneurs or youth at risk, inevitably they go, oh, I never thought of that. And it just amazes me. I work with some professionals who work with children, and the children had been through tough times. And so I talked to these people who had serious levels of education and experience, and I talked about framing and reframing. And for the course of for your listeners, framing is about how do you see things. It's based on your values, your vision in life, and reframing is seeing the same issue from a different point of view. So I remember having a client who was a real gung-ho lady, but she was 4'7", and when you went into a retail store, I'm 5'9" for your listeners' sake, you could see a cleanliness line around the whole store. She could only see dirt so high up the walls and on her fixtures. And so her and her feather duster worked their magic, and twice a year she got on a little step stool and cleaned a little higher But above that, it was all a bit of a gray haze because she just didn't see it, literally, even from across the store. She was blind at a certain height, I swear it. And so I remember my manager saying, you know, she's got to realize she needs a taller ladder. That place is dirty. So I went out of my way to not embarrass her, but to bring a ladder to work one day, and I refixtured a piece of the store for her as a gift for me to her to thank her for all her business and productivity. And then I made a point of cleaning that one section, top to bottom. And I'm not that tall, but the 6'6" piece of the fixture with the ladder, I could do. And she was later went, you know, I never looked that high.
Yeah.
And it was amazing. Even though it was small, it was big. Because a dirty store sells less than a clean store.
Right.
So framing, like everything else, is, and reframing is about how do we see it and what do we want to do about it. So it gives us a sense of more power and a set of options on how we're going to deal with things.
When you get to that point of what do we want to do about it, do you find that you or they generally stop at the first option, or do you just bring them all on and then work through that?
I think it's important to know we have options, emphasis on the S, the plural. So I worked with a law firm that had been growing leaps and bounds, only founded in the early 1990s, and when I met them, they had opened for 200 offices in the world.
Wow.
That's what I said. And I got hired to do a one-day problem-solving course for people who had just come past their 91st day of employment. Everyone in the company, when you get past 91 days, and it doesn't matter whether you're a new lawyer, summer student that's there for 5 or 6 months, whether you're the janitor, the marketing director, doesn't matter. After 91 days, you get sent off for a one-day training course that they've developed, and I got asked to do it because their regular in-house guy was sick. So I pinch hitted.
Yep.
I filled in.
Yeah.
And it was very interesting to see how excited they were because they all knew that once they had this course, it was expected that anytime somebody called in with a problem, you were to document it and tell the person who phoned in that I will own this problem for you until we resolve it for you on your behalf. So people hire this law firm because they have a high level of, I call it a cure rate or a fix rate, and not suing others. So like the person that hired me said, we're lawyers. We have fangs if we need them. We have long claws if we need them if one of our clients is being definitely abused. But if it's misunderstandings, miscomprehension, then we are trained to try to fix things through high levels of articulate, respectful communication. And they said we'll have, by 2020, they think, 400 offices around the world. Because they said, so we charge an extra $75 to $500 an hour, depending on your issue and how many people we have to put on it. But our goal is to represent you in a peaceful, respectful manner. And don't get me wrong, we're not patsies. We're not going to roll over and play dead if you're having a problem. We represent you. But we will do all we can to settle it out of court. Because court's just expensive. And why use, I think she said, why be a bulldozer when a feather duster might do the same work?
Right.
And so I was, I did the day, and the group was excited. I remember distinctly, we came back from lunch at 1:15, and around 1:20, somebody put their hand up and said, I've just had an idea, thank you. You've created the idea. I need to have a team huddle. So the several people from his department went to the back of the room, quietly talked. They got really excited. One of them said, I have to go write it up immediately. It's going off to the VP. I said, can you share? They said, no, it involves the client. I said, no problem. Anyways, the director of training came and thanked me later in the day, said, you might have just saved our client a lot of money. The trouble is we can't tell you what or how.
Oh, come on.
Could I get a percentage?
Yeah.
So I was talking about,
They probably resolve things a lot faster, too.
Well, yes, they were taking a non-adversarial approach, which the law doesn't always do. And so it was fascinating to see them in at work. And it was interesting to see them so excited about problem-solving skills, because I don't always see that level of resiliency in firms. I see blame games. I see what some people call CYA behavior.
Yeah.
That stands for cover your rear.
Yeah.
With other language.
Yeah.
And so that's where you write emails and you copy 20 people saying, I said this, they said this.
Yeah.
See, it didn't work. It's not my fault. Well, that doesn't move the problem forward. All that does is humiliate and embarrass somebody that got it wrong. And you look school child playground worthy. Nah, you made a mistake, not me. That doesn't solve anything. As opposed to, well, that didn't work for the team and the organization or the client, so what's our next steps? And so this group really had a we can do better every time out of the gates mentality, and it was really refreshing to be there. And the company did little things like they gave them 20-minute breaks, not 15-minute breaks, because creativity happens when we're relaxed and least expected, and creativity also happens when we're under pressure and we're working on it. So we should put ourselves under pressure, self-induced, and we should also give ourselves time off.
Very cool.
Really, it was.
Yeah. And we have one more break to go through. Okay. So we're going to do that now, and we'll be back shortly.
Perfect.
Thanks, Michael.
Each business is its own entity, separate from the person who created it, having its own energy and influences. What if you could use healing energy to clear blocks and fill voids that hold you in confusion and stagnation? Well, you can, and the results can be profound. Would you be interested in gaining insights as to what's really happening with your business and shift it into greater possibilities? Is it time for you to explore the unique energy of your business and create your future from a place of confidence, flow, and possibility with Carol? Find out more at www.workandalife.com.
What would you say if I told you that you could change your life in only 1 hour and all while lying down relaxing? Thousands of people all over the world have. What am I talking about? It's called Access Consciousness, the bars. The bars is an energetic body process that contains 32 different points on your head that when run assist you in releasing decisions about any area of your life that you have made solid and as a result cannot change. The bars is the first class in Access Consciousness, a dynamic set of tools and information designed to transform any area of your life. When you have a bars session, the worst that can happen is you feel like you had a fantastic massage. The best thing that can happen is your whole life could change. Go to accessconsciousness.com today to find a facilitator to schedule a private session or to find a bars class in your area. Are you willing to give yourself an hour to change your life?
Being visible, being social, being heard. What desires are you ready to create? Would you like to take the next step to creating a potent presence on the web? Would it create more possibilities and expansion in your life? BeingVisible.ca offers website, social media, radio show creation, and more. Creating with consciousness, bringing the energy of you to your audience. Are you ready to connect with your audience clearly, regularly, and with ease? Christine McIver and Carol Glover work with individuals and organizations to create a powerful presence on the web. Personal attention and one-on-one training creates the ease with expanding you. Are you ready? Connect today at beingvisible.ca. This is Work and a Life with Carol Glover. To participate in the program today, please call in the U.S. 1-815-880-8255. That's 815-880-TALK. Or in Canada, 613-800-8736. Or you can Skype us at a2zen.fm. You can also make the choice to ask or comment by email by sending to carol@workandalife.com. Now back to the program.
Wow, this hour is flying by with you, Michael. Before we get into even more of this topic, I want to be sure to have enough time to let the listeners know how to find out more about you and some of the things that you have going on. So if you can go through that for a second now, we may as well take the moment now.
Oh, thank you. Certainly. September 16th, I'm having a launch of our Imagine Yourself program. The program developed after my 7-year battle with cancer. Then my daughter, who is healthy and fine now, had a brain tumor. and looked for a skill-based program to help families and individuals cope during crisis. And so we take people on a journey into the land of Imagine Yourself, where we introduce them to 3 healthy states of being that are skill-based that we can all achieve. And then we get them to better understand 3 less healthy, less productive states of being that we all get into on occasion and visit, but it's a lousy place to live in each one of them. So we talk to people about being in frozen, flickered, or frenzy states versus floppy, flow, and fright and fun. So we use alliteration. But we've had some very big success with children as young as 3 and as old as 97. So we're very excited about having that under production right now as we speak. And as well, we're going to start working with school boards in the fall. So we're always open to discussing with school boards how our resiliency programming or Imagine Yourself programming can help with classroom management, as well as helping kids with test anxiety and behavior issues. And
wow.
we've got a couple of sales teams we're talking to these days.
Wow.
So keeps me out of mischief and off the streets, as they say.
I think you need to be on the streets more. But you can find out more about Michael at michaelhballard.ca, and I'll also post all this information on the replay and all over the place as much as I can. So tell me more about Floppy, Flow, and Fun?
Oh, yes. Well, one of the issues about being resilient is a lot of people don't realize there's actually skills and a process. If you recognize the process, if you understand the process, it's giving you more of a sense of control, because, as I like to say, I am your tour guide into the land of resiliency. And as your tour guide, if I can give you a compass and help you find your way around, it's much less threatening and less scary. So I've had people that have been what I call lost and profound for anywhere from weeks or months to several years. And by just helping them understand the 3 healthy states and productive states and the 3 less healthy productive states, it's like, oh, so I work with a 15-year-old who had some terrible things happen to her at 11. I work with a gentleman who'd been unemployed for 10 years due to serious mental health issues, and he was attending one of my programs to, as he put it, get going again. And it was like, wow. He was, God bless his courage, though, after 10 years. I'm here to learn how to be more enthusiastic and get going again because I want to work. And it was like, wow. He could have just given up and gone on long-term disability, but he said, nope. I've told them I want to go back to work. I'm too young to be on disability. Save that for the 90-year-olds. And, he graduated and got work. It was remarkable.
Wow.
So the 3 states that that stop us from being as resilient as possible, the first is frozen. We're in real overwhelm and we're in shutdown. So a lot of us, now, if the boss is looking over your shoulder, don't stick your hand up. But for the rest of us, stick up your left hand if you've ever had a day where you pulled the covers over your head, turned the alarm off, and you phoned in work to sick because you couldn't make it work because you have a real sore throat. So, once a year, who cares? You took a sick day. But, 3 days a month not facing reality, eh? So it's important to know that that's happening. And if we're there, then that's when we have to say, so what skills do I need, rationally, emotionally, physically, to get me unstuck? And who should I call for help? So just like Ghostbusters, that movie from years ago, who are you going to call? Mm-hmm. Who's on your team? What team have you created? What team do you need to build? And so frozen is a normal state of being on occasion. Retailers worry about it because when we have too many decisions, like in the jam aisle for toast and peanut butter, people have been known to look at literally 247 choices of jam for toast, and instead of buying something, they don't buy anything because they're overwhelmed and they freeze.
Yeah.
So small stuff, it probably are waistline benefits, or the other extreme, you're in the chip aisle, and there's those baked Tostitos that are healthy for you with the multi-grain, and they've got all, made with the best world-class ingredients. And then at the other end of the scale, the cheapest possible, made of the cheapest junky ingredients. And some people buy 5 bags because they can't decide what, so they just buy something of everything.
Yeah.
That's just, and that's not frozen, that's at the flicker end. And the flicker piece is we just can't quite focus in. We just can't quite calm our mind. And if I could just calm my mind, I could make a rational decision and not feel so friggin' overwhelmed. And so there's nothing wrong with being in flicker a little bit. We all do it. You're at the stoplight or the street at the stop sign, and you've got a map on the seat beside you, and you're trying to decide whether it's left or right, north or south, and you realize you've been there a little while when you've heard not one horn honk, but two horn honks. You're blocking traffic. Well, take a deep breath, turn right, pull over, put the parking lights, the four-way flashes on, or pull into a parking lot, and figure it out. No. We're in a hurry, so we'll stop and block everybody else up because we're, Again, nothing wrong with little moments here and there of being in flicker, but it gets in the way of others feeling connected with us because we're not being connected to them or ourselves. But it's perfectly normal to visit a few moments every day, but a lousy place to live long term. And the third place that we go to and visit, and it's normal to be in, but lousy to live in, is frenzy. I joke, it'd be like if I drank 12 cups of large coffee in a day. There'd be sparks coming out of my ears and off the tips of my toes. So, Carol, why am I here on the show? Who am I talking about? What am I talking about?
Yeah.
I forget why you wanted me to be here, Carol. And so, to have a couple of those days a year, it's not a character flaw. It's not moral weakness. We get overwhelmed.
Right.
But we do our bodies, our minds, our emotions no favors by living there. So part of being resilient is saying, okay, calm down, dial down, acknowledge that you just caught yourself in a frenzy, take a deep breath, practice the belly breathing, reframe, say I can access my wisdom and be calm. I can deal with the issues at hand. I worked with a woman who had lived in her bedroom and bathroom and hallway for over 18 months because she had agoraphobia and she was having serious anxiety attacks. So in her words, 1 minute I'm this outgoing mom with all these good things happening in my life, and I'm out there being an active community member with a job and volunteering, and the next minute I can barely get out of bed, never mind open the door to go down the hall to go to the bathroom.
Right.
And so she is today well. What we did was we had her acknowledge that she had lots of flicker, frenzy, and frozen going on, and there was no moral weakness. This is not a character flaw. Through the course of living 80 years and 10, or 80 plus 10, because lots of us will make it to 90 if we're under 60 years old these days.
Right.
It's okay to be feeling beat up. What do we do about it? So we had her reframe it that this was going to be the challenge of a lifetime, that we were going to climb new mountains with her emotions and her physical, and she had to practice. So I got her to rearrange her bedroom with help from her son, and we put all her bed things in one side, and that gave her a little exercise space. And we had her doing meditative walking, meditative marching. We had her play music and conduct her band music. And we gave her a set of skills, and we set goals. She was going to practice meditation for 3 minutes a day, then 7, then 12, increasing.
Wow.
And you're going to go open the bedroom door, not go out of it, just leave it open. Anyway, we set up a program, and today she says I saved her from a life of living in the bedroom.
That's awesome. Thank you so much for joining me, Michael. Again, you can reach Michael at michaelhballard.com. I'll have all the information out wherever I can put it. Thank you so much. We could have gone on for hours, I'm sure. Maybe I'll have you back and we'll continue the conversation.
Well, I like that.
Thank you so much and have a fantastic week.
Thank you for choosing to listen to Work and a Life. Carol will return next Wednesday at 11 a.m. Eastern Time, 10 a.m. Central, 9 a.m. Mountain, and 8 a.m. Pacific on A2Zen.fm. We hope you'll join us. Until then, have a fantastic week, and when in doubt, just take one small step.